Welcome everyone to Rolling Chassis Podcast. I'm your host, Star Red Hartley, and I have alongside me the other host or co-host. I'm a co-host, my main man, Chris from Chris Lawrence from Auto Academics. Good morning, sir. How you doing?
Good morning. What's going on?
Good. All is well. All is well. So I'm just glad everybody's tuning in. Shout out to everybody that's tuning in live right now. Thank you so much for rocking with us. And as you see with Rolling Chassis, you're going to get a little bit of automotive news. You're going to get some opinions. We got some very interesting topics that we're going to present to you. So we just thank you so much for hanging out. If everybody's catching this live or everybody's catching the playback, thank you. So hanging out with my man, my man, Chris. So Chris, happy Monday. How's everything?
Hey man, everything's good. I'm a little sleepy. We had another busy travel weekend. We were out in Tennessee yesterday, so a little tired. Bit of driving yesterday, but it was all good though. What made it tiring though, we got storms coming through here like crazy. It's beautiful now, but man, yesterday it was storming like crazy. I'm looking for tornadoes and all kinds of stuff. So that got me a little, if you see me still trying to wake up here, that's the reason why.
Absolutely. And hey, what's up, Jorge? My guy Jorge. Shout out to him. He just chimed in. Thank you so much, sir, for chiming on board and hopping on with us. And matter of fact, I think if we get interrupted, I think we're getting those same stories. I hear thunder and lightning in the background here in the Northeast. So I think all that rain you got is coming up the coast and it's hitting us right now as we speak. So for any reason I get disconnected, you know why? But it's not going to happen. Shouldn't happen. So same thing with me. And speaking of automotive news, it's amazing. Speaking of which, quick story, I just went to Philly yesterday as well. And I said to my wife, that is a microcosm of the best of America. They fixed I-95, if you haven't heard, within 2 weeks. And when I said they fixed it, I know personally because we were in Philly the day before it happened. So it happened, we were in Philly that Sunday, it happened that Saturday, it happened that Sunday. So literally that was 2 weeks to 3 weeks ago. And when I went into Philly yesterday morning, there was no traffic. It was clear. The road was fixed. And I told my wife, she said, well, how they fixed? I said, from my understanding, President Biden said it's too much of an artery to the country, to New York and Philly. We cannot shut it down. And I told my wife that the workers worked around the clock 24/7 to fix. And I said, that right there is the best of America. That right there, what you see, to me personally, is the best of America. When we have a situation or a disaster that needs to be fixed, we come together and fix. So to me, it was amazing, bro. I went over it and it was like, it didn't even happen. Speaking of automotive.
Impressive. Because we had the same issue in Atlanta a few years ago. Like when this Philly episode happened, I was like, dude, like how in the world did that happen again? Somewhere else. It was the exact same scenario where there was a fire, made the bridge collapse or whatever, the overpass collapse, and just like Philly, whole thing wiped out. And but it took Atlanta, months to get that thing repaired again to where it could be driven on. So that's cool that Philly got it done like that.
No, to me it's refreshing. You got so much division, but I said to my wife, it's very refreshing to see that we can come together and accomplish things. And like I said, it's refreshing. It's far and few between, not to get super political, but it felt good. She said, well, how do you know? He went over, I said, because they had the crane right where it happened, and they had the boomer and they had the American flag. So it showed you right where it happened. So it felt good. It felt a little patriotic. So, besides that, speaking of American, Tesla, if you hit a Rivian RT1 and the Rivian RT2 and the platform, Tesla, which is an American company, Ford and GM. Speaking of the best of America, Ford and GM has just agreed, along with Rivian, to come together with NASCA, which is the North American Charging Standard. So they're all hopping on board with Tesla, and also the Stellantis group, I believe, is also thinking of hopping on board with Tesla as far as concerning charging. So according to Motor Trend, so I'm going to read a quick something from Motor Trend. It said that while the rumors that Stellantis is considering it, Rivian has just announced that too, that it will switch to North American charging standard starting as soon as 2025. Your thoughts, sir? Your thoughts?
Oh yeah. Well, Rivian's one of those new startup EV companies that they're trying to get their footing.
Mm-hmm.
Out here, I see probably one or two a week. Like they are selling out here,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still, like that's still not enough for sustainability. So they're trying to get their footing, they're trying to get their spot in the EV market. And I think that this is actually a pretty decent move for them, especially to happen right after Ford and then General Motors, like, with all these really big companies
Mm-hmm.
jumping on board with Tesla and their superchargers. That's huge for Rivian to jump in also, because there's still a lot of big automakers that have not done that yet.
Mm-hmm.
So when when basically the writing is on the wall now that this is the direction that of what kind of charging standard is going to be used now, that then that I think that can help Rivian a lot now, because as people learn about that, that may make them look more toward Rivian as a possible purchase than to go to another brand. If you look at another brand, and I mean, I love, for example, Hyundai. I love Hyundai's EVs, the Ioniq
Mm-hmm.
series. They're fantastic, but if they're based on the other system of charging, that might make somebody, think a little twice at first and say, hey, well, why would I get this and then have to use adapters and blah, 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 when I can just buy one of these other cars that is readily made for this standard of charging now. So I think that it's actually a positive move. I definitely don't see any negative sides to it. And just like Tesla owners have been doing forever, is when you go to another charging station that doesn't use that standard, then you use your adapter. But knowing that the Tesla supercharger network is going to be the main network now that is being used, I think that's a very wise direction to go in. And I know that there will be many other manufacturers joining in as soon as possible.
Well, here's the thing, and I'm just talking, I'm just thinking about it, and something popped up yesterday I seen, and maybe we can talk about it next show, called Ample. You know what Ample is? Ample
Yes.
is, yeah. So I was like, you know what? And I'm not gonna give away too much detail about Ample, but I was like, you know what? That may make an electric car driver out of me, because we had talked about it behind the scenes, you and I, where prior, not to this particular show, but I think I had mentioned to you that, what keeps me from EVs. I always say the statement when people ask me, I said, EVs are great. I'm not against EVs, but I said, until they can come up with a way of making me charge my EV just as fast as getting a tank of gas or faster, then I don't think I'll be switching over until then. But then I happen to come across Ample, like I said, just to give a little suspense for maybe for next show. I'm not going to go into details about Ample, but I was like, oh, okay, that may actually make me switch in the future if it was up to me. But that being said, I think that's a far cry away to take away, or far ways away to take away from Tesla and the charging station, if it does at all. But it's a great step in the right direction, I think, to make more common Americans switch over that has the same mentality that I do. That's middle of the road. That's not against EV. That's so much black smoke, gasoline, diesel forever. No, I think that they're building excellent EVs. The Rivian is awesome. Here by me, I see them more often, but not as much as the Teslas. I literally came out the gym, and I counted, and I parked in front of the EV charging stations here, and it was about 10 of them, all filled with Teslas. I looked to the right of me and to the left of me was two Teslas, and behind me to the right was a Tesla. Every once in a while, you will see a Hyundai charging there. You will see look. We talked about the Ford Mustang Mach-E's are a little more prevalent, but it's no comparison to what Tesla's doing in the EV space as well. So it's a good thing for America. It's a good thing for chargers.
Well, it's funny you mentioned seeing the Teslas when we were talking about the supercharging network and all that kind of stuff. And so during our trip to Tennessee, for us it's like a 3.5 hour drive or so to get there. And So we stopped at this. There's this rest stop that I had never heard of until recently down here in the South, because, for those that don't know, I'm from up north. I'm from Philly, but I've lived in this Atlanta area for now 15 years. So,
wow.
So I'm still learning though. I've been here a while, but I'm still learning. And there's been a lot of buzz over the last couple of years about this place, and I'm like, what? And not, not to be given, shout outs and props and all that kind of stuff, but there's a spot called Buc-ee's, and it's like a road stop, like a truck stop, but it's not a truck stop though. It's made just for like passenger vehicles. They don't have stuff for like, trucks to pull in or whatever, but they typically put these spots right near where truck stops are. So they're in those locations off the highway, right off the highway. And so we've stopped there before because there's been a lot of buzz or whatever. So we stopped there this last time to get gas and everything. And man, I tell you, so they've got a whole row of superchargers off to the side. There aren't any other chargers. No, Electrify America, none of the other types, none of the other standard, just Tesla superchargers, a whole line of them along the back of the parking lot. And this place is humongous. Parking lot's humongous. So we're talking like, if I had to guess, there were probably like 10 to 15 supercharger charging stations lined up on one side. And as we were leaving, there were probably about 7 or 8 Teslas in there charging at that moment. And I guess the point of that is to say, with the supercharger infrastructure in prime locations where people are, not in these, these little side whatevers where you got to kind of go off the beaten path or whatever, but with these superchargers actually being where normal gas car drivers go, people are able to use these EVs a lot more regularly, using them for, longer road trips and stuff like that. I don't know if you necessarily try to do a 500 or 600 mile road trip, but, for us doing this Tennessee drive, that could have worked. That honestly could have worked. We were stopping there anyway. And so, if you stop and use the bathroom or, maybe get, something to drink or something like that, maybe you spend 20 minutes there and you can very likely get an 80% charge by then, at a supercharger. And so, just seeing these things in the wild and available, that's definitely going to make EVs a little more user friendly, where it's like, hey, now for trips like this, we're going 3.5 hours away or something like that, 200 miles, 200 plus mile trip, that sort of thing. That on that route, off that major highway at this rest stop or whatever, there's going to be superchargers sitting right there for you. So that so I thought that was interesting. That was definitely something that caught my eye yesterday about that, and that's the direction everything's going in, and we just it just has to keep moving in that direction, so it's not just in these main primary areas, but also in some other areas where people travel as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And moving forward in innovation, is an awesome thing. So that being said, let's move along to our other topic. And if anybody who loves top 10 list, I'm a fan of top 10 list. We have car and drivers top 10s list, and I'm going to play a little game here. So let's just say this. We have one BMW, one Porsche. We have 2 Toyotas, 2 Hondas, 1 Subaru, 2 Cadillacs, 1 Chevy. So that's 10. So I'll let you kind of guess. The 2 Hondas and maybe the 1 Chevy. So what's the 1 Chevy? Just take a long guess, Chris. I know it's not surprising who the 1 Chevy is, and it ain't the Malibu.
Right. It is obviously the Corvette.
As it ain't the Cavalier.
Obviously the Corvette,
Absolutely. And the 2 Cadillacs obviously ain't the Cimarron and the
I haven't heard that name in a long time.
I'm showing my age.
You went way back.
AKA the Cavalier. But it's interesting to me. This list is very interesting. Mid-year of the calendar 2023, not the cycle of vehicles. And it's very interesting how Honda made it twice. Not surprising. Chevy, the Corvette, made it twice. Me being a Mustang fan, I'm shocked at the Mustang, so I'm biased. But the one interesting thing we talked about a little bit earlier and we discussed is that Cadillac, or the Cadillac twins, if you will, are on there, and the CT5 and the CT4 Blackwing, which is some heavyweights. I've seen them personally. I have my eyes on them. If anybody knows me, I just actually one of each in my group. Shout out to Motor Ministry. We have a CT5 that rolls with us, and we have a CT4 that rides with us. And yeah, these things move. It's heavyweight. And the funny part is, whenever they pull in the parking lots, man, the crowd that's around these cars, especially one time they parked next to each other, and you want to talk about forget everything else that was there. And I think that, and honestly, the crazy part, Chris, that particular day, a Lamborghini Urus, I believe, was there. Walked past it like it wasn't, and just everybody was flocking around these two Blackwings. And I was like, so your thoughts is very interesting. Like you said something very interesting, and you put it so brilliantly earlier. To be honest with you, you put it very brilliantly. You said they didn't put them together as a group. They actually took the time to say no and write articles, say, no, we're going to put the CT4 and the CT5 on the list separately and shine a light on them. So your thoughts on what Cadillac is doing, man, in that space and to make this list?
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised that it's seen as a great car. You know, as I mentioned to you before, I have not personally had any experience with those cars. I did have experience with the previous gens, and especially like, you know, the CTSVs and all that stuff. And I mean, they were amazing cars. They were just fantastic drivers, but also performers. For those who don't know, you know, these cars they use almost the exact same engine as the Corvettes use in their cars. You know, they're actually more powerful than the standard Corvette. They use the engines that like the Z06 uses. And so you know, we're talking over 600 horsepower now in these new ones, and I mean they're truly monsters, but still luxury sedans, you know, and
Yes.
that's always the epitome for me for these luxury sports sedans, is when, you know, they can make them where they're competing almost the same way that a two-door dedicated sports coupe can perform, but they're doing it where you can still carry your family in it as well. I mean, that stuff, I geek out on that stuff. That stuff, especially since, you know, I mean, just like you know, we got families, you know, we got kids, we got a wife, got all that stuff. And so I know for me, as I'm not at the point yet where I can, where I can, you know, have the fun car that I truly want, as well as the family car, you know, like they kind of have to be 2 in 1 right now. So it's like, you know, so that's why I geek out on these high-end luxury sports sedans, because they give me the best of both worlds, where, you know, I can carry the family comfortably, but also still get my thrills, you know, when I want to. So I'm not surprised that those two cars made it on the list. Yeah, the fact that they were separated, that was interesting, because they could have easily just bundled them together and said, you know, the CT4, CT5V twins or what have you. But, you know, the way that they did their ratings and everything, their scoring, both of those cars obviously were scored individually and ranked very high, ranked in the top 10. And so that's why they made the list individually.
No, yeah. Behind the scenes, I drive CTS. I have one. I have my hands on one. The generation before, like we talked about, not even, and I don't have the V. I have the, you know, the luxury, upper luxury.
You got the CTS V6, like me.
Yeah, the V6. There you go. Absolutely.
People are like, yo, is that a CTS V? Sure
no,
is.
V6. But you know what? If you see it in person, it holds its own. Go to Motor Ministry CC and look it up. It holds its own. I call it champagne. But my point is, the chassis dynamics on it, just for it being not even a base, but just a middle, like one step below the V, it basically has the same package as the V. It just doesn't have the power plant. So that's the power plant. So that's the package that I was, you know, blessed enough to have, where it has all the features of the V, just doesn't have the power plant, which I'll take. But the point is, you put it in sport mode, right? and you go around a corner, and then I have aftermarket rims, which is 10-inch, 9.5, 10-inch, which makes it even a flatter stance on the road, and it will take corners and it will wake up. Like I said, but the chassis dynamics is fantastic. So I can imagine them taking it to the next level. And I can tell you from experience, the job that Cadillac is doing. So I'll make a long story short. I have a couple of brothers who have BMWs. When I first bought it, this is my second Cadillac. They was like, yo, they was like, how does it feel? And I said, honestly, they're doing so much better. And they have to compute the journey. But I said, honestly, you guys driving BMW Mercedes-Benz. But I was like, if you drove it, you'll be very shocked on how it's not like the old school Brohams, right? That our grandparents had, or the or you know what I mean, with the deuce and the quarters with the curve fillers on it, bending corners. It's a totally different Cadillac. And they do an excellent job, man, with the chassis dynamics.
And Cadillac, they did benchmark the BMWs, the 3 Series when they were creating that car. So that's why there's no surprise at all why that car drove and handled so well, because the 3 Series was the epitome, that and the 5 Series were the epitomes of sports sedans during that era. And so GM was like, we can do that too, or we can even possibly do it better. And that was when they came out with that generation. And so this new gen, I mean, I would expect nothing less for it to be better, especially if they're going to put the V badge on it and the Blackwing label behind that, and then for those who don't know, the Blackwing part, that's just where the engine is souped up, even, tuned just even a little spicier. And so, I mean, and they actually had put the Blackwing in a standard CT6 back in a few years ago, where
my dream car.
What's that?
My dream car. I want a CT6 in general. Keep the Blackwing.
That thing was dope, man. That car is dope. It's a big car, big luxurious car. It's not a sports sedan. It's not a hardcore sports sedan like the CT4 and 5Vs are. But they threw the Blackwing engine in that thing, so it still was a monster, So, that's what the Blackwing represents, is just that little extra tuning in the horsepower, making it kind of the elite CT5V or CT4V model.
And speaking of which, my man Chris does have experience on it. So once again, just check him out on Auto Academics. He's reviewed it, I believe, a year or two ago. So check out his review on the. So he's not pulling out there. He's literally drived it. He's reviewed it. Like I said, this is what he does. This man's expertise. He's driven it. So if you haven't caught it early, he said I haven't physically driven it yet. I'm pretty sure he will in the future. But if you do want to know on the CT6 or the Blackwing, he does an excellent job of the CT6. So just go ahead over to search Auto Academics, scroll through, and definitely will find his review.
Right here on YouTube. Right here on YouTube. You don't have to go that far.
So
this broadcast ends, go right there.
Go right there. Absolutely. So two interesting things. The Accord and the Civic, I'm not surprised that. What was interesting to me, but outside of the Cadillacs, the Porsche Boxster, I'm not surprised that / Cayman. They always do a great job. I'm not surprised that. The Toyota Corolla GR, I'm not really surprised that Toyota does a decent job. What I am surprised at is two. Well, actually three. The BMW i4, which I heard is getting a great review, as ugly as it is to me. Not ugly, but excuse me, as much I don't agree with, and let me clean that up. Excuse me, as much I don't agree with the styling of the BMW i4. That's an interesting one. The Subaru and the Toyota twins as well, the BRZ and the GR86 is interesting to me. How that made it, I'm not quite sure. I could have put one on the list before that, but it's subject to opinion. And the Supra, which is very similar to the BMW i4 as well. So it's interesting they threw those on the list. Your thoughts, and then I'll chime in after that, of the Subaru, the BMW i4, and the Toyota Supra.
Well, for starters, this list is very performance slanted. So that part was very interesting to me, to see that, all of the cars were very performance slanted. So except for the Honda Accord, that was like the odd egg out there where it's like, okay. So that part's interesting to me. The Supra, it's a great car. For me, it was just edgy enough to really enjoy it and to feel like you were buying a performance car. It was slightly edgier though than some other cars that I can name on another day or whatever, but some other new sports cars that are in the same category as that Supra. So I don't know. For me, I don't know if as I'm aging, I don't know if I'd use the Supra as a daily driver because it had that little extra edginess to it. But I think that would still be the car that I would have chosen out of the class of cars that it competes with because of its edginess. It's a car where it's like, all right, this is my weekend fun car. And when I want a weekend fun car, I want it to be fun. I want it to make noise. I want it to, have just all of the right visceral and just all that stuff about it, as opposed to muting it down where I can drive it daily. But then I don't quite get as much of the fun factor that I personally like out of it. So I get that. I get the Supra on the list. i4, that's another one I have not been in yet. I have reviewed a number of BMW's comparable sized cars. Oh gosh, now I'm trying to think of some of the ones that I've been in now that I've said that out loud.
But just from just from your experience from other BMWs and just a automatic, from what you see, like I said, like just from the styling. The interior is awesome. Like I said, the styling I just don't agree with. It's different, but something I prefer? No. So just from like a first glance your experience from driving BMWs, I've worked on them. I know them inside and out as well, a little bit. So you're going to get some quality. That's one thing. You're going to get something that's reliable. BMW does an excellent job as well with chassis dynamics and power plants. So you know what you're going to get pound for pound. They're one of the best. So you know what you're going to get. So just your opinion on like I said, the i4 making this list, and it made it for a reason. You're not buying junk. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well. You mentioned the design. It's funny when I got my first car out of that generation for review. It was killing me. It was killing me, and I admit I did poke fun at it in my review a little bit. But I've had a number of cars since then, and every time I see the car, it doesn't offend me the same way it did anymore. And to be honest, now when I look at the picture of that i4, it looks like a current gen BMW, and I'm not like ew. I'm like, all right, So it's wearing on me, and sometimes that's what design does. It doesn't necessarily always grab you in a positive way right from the beginning, especially when it's so different. But then sometimes it wears on you to the point where it might eventually become your favorite daily suit that you put on. Or those favorite shoes. When you first put them on, they might pinch a little bit in the ankle. Them shoes, you're like, I mean, they're the latest and greatest, but man, I can't wear these all day,
Yeah.
But then eventually it starts to wear on you where you're like, yo, these became my dailies. Yeah, I wear these all the time now, And so I feel like that's how BMW's kind of getting to me with that design, and for everybody, what we're talking about is the grille, that front end, the grille. But BMW is known for doing stuff like that. They had the Bengal butt back in the 90s, where everybody was like, what is going on with that rear end of the car? It's crazy. And so they always push the limits. They push the boundaries. This generation, that front end, that grille, I'm not going to poke fun at it anymor. But
it's acquired taste, my friend. It's an acquired taste. It's acquired. It's like the Lexus. The Lexus Predator grill. Ever since I never loved them, I was like,
I'm used to that now.
But they sell them not because of the grill. They sell them because of the reliability. They're all over the place here too, as well, where I'm at. And like I said, once again, you're gonna get something reliable. So some people are like, I can deal with the grill as long as I'm not broken down on the side of the road, right? So it's
Yeah, I have my thoughts on that also that I'm not gonna get into here. But overall, I love BMWs as brand new cars to drive. I think they are absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And they all drive wonderfully, and they're luxurious, and all the other stuff that you would expect from a high-end car. And so the i4, it's my understanding that it drives as well as, if not better than, a lot of its gas contemporaries, and so here we are now, where BMW is ushering you into the new EV space, but with a car that you're like, yo, am I giving up everything? It handles just like the gas would. It's just the powertrain is different, and that's the direction that everything is moving toward now. So I'm not surprised. I could see that on the list as well.
Awesome, man. So that being said, man, just for the sake of time, where the half an hour goes goes fast, excuse me, folks, when you're having fun. So, that's pretty much our time every Monday, 9 a.m. for right now. Thank you so much for joining us as well. If you have a comment, leave it in the comment section. What's your top 10? Who would you replace on that list? I know I have 1 or 2 I will replace for sure. I'm pretty sure it's all subjective, but also chime in. What you think about Rivian hopping on with Tesla? Tesla guys, I don't want to call them fanboys. I don't want to disrespect them, but Tesla guys, we know how you feel. But anyone that's not a Tesla person, chime in as well about Ford and Chevy coming on, and GM coming on with Rivian with Tesla. And also, what's your top 10 list? So that being said, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that icon bell button. So if you have anything that's coming up, you shall know. Also, check out my guy Chris at Auto Academics. Search it. You're going to get an awesome car review. Everything that he said is there. You want to check out the Cadillacs? Check it out. He's done it. You want to check out some Toyotas, the Supra? He's done it about 2 months ago, Chris? 3 months ago, you did a Supra. Excellent on a Supra, yes?
Yeah. I've had a few of them now. So ever since they brought it back, I've got like maybe 3 or 4 different videos on it.
Awesome. All right. With that being said, Chris, any last words before we get on out of here?
Nah, man. It is all good. Love chatting with you, and love chatting with all of you out there, and hope to see everybody again next time.
Awesome. Next time we see you, God bless you out there. Have a good one. Drive safe. Peace.